Police in Alabama are now trying to blame a shooting victim for having a legal firearm. Now, on Thanksgiving, police officers in Birmingham, Alabama, or at least a suburb of that city, responded to reports of shots being fired at a local mall. It's the River Chase Galleria Mall. Now, that ended up with one man being killed by police officers who had responded to the scene. Now, that man was 21-year-old E.J. Bradford. Now, E.J. Bradford actually had nothing to do with the original shooting that they responded to. Now, according to reports, two young men began fighting inside the mall. One man drew a gun and shot an 18-year-old man twice and shot a 12-year-old girl. Now, as far as I know, those people did survive, but the 21-year-old E.J. Bradford, who was not involved in that original altercation, was killed. Now, why? What happened? Well, let me get into more of the details here. Now, during the fight, one of the males produced a handgun, shot the other male twice in the torso. Two uniformed Hoover police officers providing security at the mall were in close proximity. They heard the gunshots. While moving towards the scene, one of the officers encountered a suspect brandishing a pistol and then shot him. Now, that suspect, quote unquote, was Amantic Fitzgerald Bradford Jr., or E.J. Bradford. Now, after that, HPD Captain Greg Rector described him as a armed shooter and basically said, we caught the guy. I mean, he had a gun, he was brandishing that weapon, and he was close to the scene. So, you know what? We just shot him. We didn't ask any questions. We shot him. We killed him. We got him. We got him. No, turns out they didn't get him. And later on, they realized, oh my God, we got the wrong guy. In fact, the police admitted, after calling the officer who shot and killed Bradford a hero, and therefore, of course, saying that Bradford was the bad guy, he was the thug, right? He backtracked and said that Bradford was actually, yes, he was there and might have been involved in the altercation, maybe, but he was unlikely to be involved in the original incident. So the story has actually changed a couple of times. First, he was the shooter. Then they realized, oh, he's not the shooter, but he might have been involved in the altercation. And then, oh, yeah, we don't think he was involved in the altercation at all. He was just, oops. In fact, Bradford, by the way, according to his father, who was a retired jail supervisor, by the way, Bradford was fully licensed to have the gun. So it is very likely, or is very possible, that Bradford was actually attempting to be the good guy with the gun that you hear so much about. The NRA, of course, is like, oh, well, you know, it takes a good guy with a gun to stop a bad guy with a gun. Well, Bradford was a good guy with a gun, and so it's very likely that he was rushing towards the scene to be the good guy with the gun and to stop the bad guy. But he was stopped by police first and fatally shot. So, that is, look, what happens when that good guy happens to be black, in this case, right? Again, they tell us all the time, NRA, you got to be the good guy with the gun, right? Rush in, save your fellow Americans. You'll be a hero. Well, not unless you're black. This is the same kind of story as Jamil Robertson, right? Jamil Robertson chased down a gunman at a bar in Chicago while he was on duty as a security guard. He was a good guy with the gun. And what happened to him? Police shot and killed him too, because they thought for some reason he was the bad guy. Well, apparently, to police, you can't both be a good guy with a gun and also be a black man. And unfortunately, that's what happens. Now, yesterday the cops released a statement now saying that, oh, well, look, he had the gun. He was brandishing the gun, so what could we do? He said, we can say with certainty Mr. Bradford brandished a gun during the seconds following the gunshots, which instantly heightened the sense of threat to approaching police officers responding to the chaotic scene. Well, he had a gun. He was black, he had a gun. We just assumed that he was the shooter. So what did we do? We instantly shot and killed him. Whatever happened to police drop your weapon? You see that in movies all the time, right? Apparently movies do not echo real life, because in there, the police actually give you time to say, I'm not the shooter. I didn't kill anybody. I was trying to do something good. And brandished. Brandished. What do they mean by brandished? He was holding the gun. Apparently, holding a gun as a black man is brandishing. They said that it instantly heightened the sense of threat. Yeah, he's a black guy with a gun. Of course. Of course, you're going to have an instantly heightened sense of threat. I wonder if they had had that same sense if it were a white guy. No, you know what? We already know the answer to that. There are numerous times where there is a white person with a gun that ends up just getting arrested. And sometimes they take him to Burger King or McDonald's to go and get a meal. White guy with a gun just did, killed people. Oh, let's take you out for food. I mean, you're not that dangerous, right? Whereas black man, 2 seconds, they're dead. They're dead. So, look, these stories say two things to me, right? So, for one, if you're black, you're always considered a threat, whether or not you have a legal gun. You're always a threat to police. And number two, the idea of the good guy with the gun is horseshit. Because again, how are police officers supposed to know who is the good guy with the gun here when everybody is armed? And of course, as usual, the fear-mongering from the NRA and the promotion of this narrative about good guys with guns ends up getting black men killed. And if you think the NRA is going to defend these guys, well, guess what? They're not. They don't talk about Jamil Robertson. They're not going to talk about E.J. Bradford. Just like they ignored Philando Castile. All of them were black men, legal gun owners. They had their permit. They were exercising their Second Amendment rights. They were still murdered by police officers who considered them a threat. I wonder why they were considered threatening. Well, if you have a situation where the white man with a gun who ends up getting arrested and not shot, whereas you have the same situation where one of the people with the gun ends up being a black person, and it ends up completely differently, you can kind of guess what's going wrong here, what the theme here is, what the central issue is, right? Look, Ronald Reagan in California. You know, California didn't have tough gun control laws until Reagan. Why? It's because there were black people exercising their Second Amendment rights. They are afraid of armed black people. And ironically, the NRA uses that same fear of armed black people to sell guns to scared white people. It is about racism. There is a lot of racism in this story. But of course, it's not just about that. It's also about easy access to weaponry. And it's also about police training. Why are they considered a threat? Why are black people considered more threatening than white people? It's not because they commit the majority of crimes. No, white people, black people actually commit crimes at about the same rates. But they are incarcerated and arrested far more than white people are, which is kind of strange when you think about it. Wonder why that is. Could be that maybe we have some systemic racism left in this country that targets black men. Probably. Look, I don't even know what to say to black people to protect themselves against this. What, don't get a gun? Well, we've already seen situations where even if you don't have a gun, you are still shot and killed. How many times have black men been shot and killed even when they're unarmed? Sometimes within seconds. Or shooting you for even having a cell phone. I mean, come on. It is a no-win situation if you're a minority in America and you end up having an encounter with a police officer. Now, look, do we need police training? Of course, we need police accountability. We need police training. I think we need to have police forces that more represent the community that they're supposed to protect. And we need that, and we need to demilitarize the police. And I think we do need common sense gun regulation. You reduce the number of guns in the country, and police maybe aren't going to be so, I don't know, afraid. But that still won't solve the ultimate problem here, is that there is a deep-seated inherent bias against black people, where there are just people who are just more afraid of black people and see them more as a threat. Now, it would help if, of course, police officers, or I should say police departments, didn't hire white supremacists. But as we've seen, there are racists and white supremacists that actively go into law enforcement. So that's another issue. And so there are a lot of different factors here that need to be dealt with when dealing with this issue. It is not one thing. It's not just one thing. It is a variety of things. But what I can tell you is that it's extremely dangerous to be a black man in America. And reading these stories, man, you would never think someone who looks like me. We never deal with these problems. But just because we don't deal with them, it doesn't mean that they don't exist. And it doesn't mean they're not destroying this community. And so we've got to do something about it, because at the end of the day, it's not going away on its own. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know how I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills, and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on, and you guys will know that you're supporting independent progressive media.